Hi everybody, I'm Ulrik Christensen. I'm the CEO of Area 9 Lyceum, and I'd like to talk about how the fourth industrial revolution will shake up education as we know it. What is adaptive learning? Adaptive learning is an online delivery method that can benefit from some of the same advantages as you find in one-to-one instruction. We basically sequence what happens to that individual student in many ways the same way as an individual teacher would do it if you had the resources to spend one-on-one time with the learner. We also recreate a lot of this based on real-time data analysis, real-time analytics and statistics, intelligent technologies, so that we help the individual learner focus as much of his or her time on improving on their weaknesses and as little time as possible re-practicing and retraining and applying things they already do know. This is a method that has been researched and has been proven effective for years. Originally, the one-to-one research was done by Benjamin Bloom, very well known for Bloom's taxonomy, but he also made this landmark study, often referred to as the 2 Sigma study, which showed that there was a 2 standard deviation improvement if you used one-to-one tutoring over traditional classroom education. So there was this massive impact of changing the paradigm from a one-size-fits-few to a completely tailored instructional method. However, we've spent decades trying to figure out how could we actually do this, and why is that important right now? So we've spent the last about 20 years doing research in human factors in learning science and computer science. We have powered the learning of more than 13 million students in over 2,000 courses. We've collected billions of data points that we have looked at and done research on, probably to an extent not surpassed by anybody in the industry. And what that has given us is an expertise in what really impacts learning. This is critically important at this pivotal time in history where we no longer have a need to educate students for what we built the education system for, which was preparing humans to work in factories at assembly lines, be human hard drives of information that could be regurgitated. The challenge in the future is completely different because something really important happened. What happened was what is often referred to as the fourth industrial revolution. And how big is it? McKinsey estimated in a report from last year that more than 50% of the world economy will be impacted by the fourth industrial revolution. More than 1.2 billion jobs and more than $15 trillion of wages will be impacted by this, and will happen as fast as within the next 20 years. In comparison, the first industrial revolution with the steam engine generated about a 0.3% productivity gain. So we're orders of magnitude higher in terms of the impact here of the fourth industrial revolution. We believe that the answer to where humans and the role humans need to play in the future lies in a more nuanced approach to education. Learning of knowledge is of course still extremely important, and also more important than most people think. There are advocates out there that will say, oh, you can look everything up on your computer, but I will make the argument that just because we all carry a powerful computer in our pocket or we have access to the internet doesn't mean that we don't need to learn things anymore. I actually have quite the opposite point of view. We still need to learn, and we still need to learn a lot more at a much deeper level than we did before. And I'll come back to that in a second. However, it is also critically important that we allocate space in the education system to develop character skills like courage, curiosity, mindfulness, resilience, ethics, and leadership. It is critically important as well that we develop the skills of creativity, of collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. All that also in addition to many professions' need for psychomotor skills. On top of all this is an even more complex aspect of the meta-learning, the things that allow us to learn and practice all these other things. The way we look at our own learning, the metacognitive skills, and the growth mindset, the parameters or the things that characterizes the modern mindset or the modern intelligence, the thing that will allow humans to stay in an advantageous position over algorithms and robotics and machine learning. We showed in a study published in Harvard Business Review last year that while 61% of an existing high-tech electronics company's labor force were consciously competent, we also showed that 8% of them were consciously incompetent, which means they actually did realize that there are things they needed to learn. But a staggering 22% were unconsciously incompetent, meaning they did not realize what they didn't know. This study has been changing the way a lot of our partners and a lot of our own collaborators look at this. We've worked on this for close to 20 years, this concept of conscious incompetence. And we believe that this is key to understanding how do we actually change the education system of the future. This progression that many people go through from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence when they learn, and ultimately or eventually getting to conscious competence, where you're basically capable of not only being proficient but also knowing that you're proficient. But there is one more step that is important, which is automaticity. This aspect this concept where you reach a level where you don't even need to think anymore. You're able to apply it without occupying the brain. That's important when you want to at a much higher pace and a much higher capacity practice the 21st century skills or work on the character domain. But what does it take to get here? Let's talk a little bit about that. What we can see is that if you apply the adaptive methods, we can halve the time to proficiency of classic knowledge. What that gives us the opportunity suddenly to do is we were able to free up space in the system for other things. And how do we do that? We do that by very deliberately, for instance, moving and working on this concept of unconscious incompetence. We do it through training, and we do it through very rigorous training, where every time you interact with the system, you build a better and better ability to know what you don't know, and thus progress towards conscious competence, where you not only know what the answer is, but you also are sure about it. And the way we practice this is every time we ask a student a question in these systems, we ask them to rate their feeling of knowing. We ask them to tell us how confident they are about this, and we can show that students and learners become markedly faster and more precise at assessing their own knowledge. So what does that all mean? What that means is that if this is the current state where the knowledge domain has absorbed most of the capacity in the system, both for the learners and for the teachers and the facilitators, by working with adaptive systems to deal with this overwhelming knowledge learning burden, what we work very systematically on is to squeeze the amount of time, make it more efficient to get to the necessary proficiency, to the conscious competence, and to the automaticity that is needed to be able to deal with these other aspects that we can now free up time for, being skills, practice of skills, and formation of character traits, as well as consistently working on growth mindset, which is this modern intelligence concept, as well as metacognition. This is a small teaser. This is something I've spent more than 2 decades of my life looking at this. It's something that we very much welcome a further discussion with all of you around, and I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.